Ironside will not be seen tonight, so we may bring you the following special program.
Please support the Word Balloon podcast by going to patreon.com/wordballoon. Become a part of the League of Word Balloon listeners. That's patreon.com/wordballoon. Welcome back, everybody. It's time again for Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show, although we'll branch into novels as well. John Suntress here. Happy to welcome back mystery writer and comic book writer extraordinaire, Alex Segura, to Word Balloon. Good to see you, man.
Oh man, good to be here. Always a treat. Just like old buddies hanging out.
Absolutely, man. Geez, I know. I haven't seen you at a show in a while, but
I think since Terrificon a couple of years ago, yeah.
Yeah, I'm hoping this summer that I see it. And I'm not hitting San Diego like I used to because the bank account is dwindling, and it's like I can't drop a couple grand on San Diego Comic Con anymore.
Yeah, it's not cheap. Mm-hmm. I hear
absolutely. Well, you're killing it lately, man. And I gotta say the main reason why I wanted to have you on was to talk about your new questions series all along the Watchtower. Is this a limited series or is this an ongoing?
It's limited. It ends with issue 6, so we're about halfway. I think 3 of the issues are out. 4 is about to come out, and I just did a lettering pass on 5, and I'm finishing up the script on 6. So I'm reaching the end. The readers are kind of halfway through, but limited series. I mean, I got to write a little 3-parter with Renee leading up to this and Batman Brave and the Bold, which was fun, and that was almost like a nice little shakedown cruise to get into the character's head. I'd written a few shorts with Renee before that, but now it was really a great practice run to get to the big show, I guess. Literally, the Watchtower.
Yeah, no, and I do like that. That's the backdrop for this mystery that Renee is dealing with, and also is given a support staff of other Justice Leaguers. Animal Man is part of that. Bulleteer, which is I honestly, as I've been talking to you and Mark Waid and some of the others that have been writing since All In started, and especially Justice League related stories, it is great that everybody is using these C and D characters that we don't normally see. So that's great to see.
Yeah, no, it's been fun. I mean, Mark has been really gracious, as you would expect. He's just, such a great person to work with. And Chris Cantwell, who's doing Challengers of the Unknown. There's some Challengers threads that bleed into all along the Watchtower. But one of the things that came up when we were figuring out all the question, my editor, Paul Kaminsky and Jillian Grant, they said she's going to need a support staff. Like who would make sense? And I just picked out the characters I really wanted to write, like Ted Kord, Jaime Reyes, the Blue Beetles, obviously Buddy Baker. I'm a huge Animal Man fan.
Me too.
Grant's run is one of those definitive things for me. And so I just thought, let me just ask for the moon and I'll get pulled back. But they were both very open to it. And obviously Kate Kane having Batwoman in there adds a lot of like romantic tension, but also like they've got a lot of history together. So there's a lot of ground to cover, and the fact that Renee gets pulled into this mystery on the Watchtower and has no idea what is causing these problems or who's causing it, and then is foisted this team is foisted on her. It makes for an interesting narrative. Sorry, there's like an ambulance driving by.
Oh, no worries, man. That's
City.
Life. Yeah, exactly, man. That's life. No, I gotta, just like when a cat goes across the camera, I'm usually okay with it. You know how it is.
But it's fun. I love those characters. But obviously it's very much Renee's book. She is the star. And, you and I are both big Greg Rucka fans. And so I tried to channel Greg as much as I could. He's not only an inspiration, but a mentor in many ways. So it's cool to play with a character. Renee's probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite DC character. So it's really been a thrill and an honor. And Kian Tormey, the artist, has really just knocked it out of the park. Just
good looking book, man.
it sounds trite to say that he's great at action and also the quiet moments, but he is. He's got it all down, and I feel like I love the collaboration because he'll make suggestions. He's like, "Well, can I try this instead?" I'm like, "You're the director here. I'm just a screenwriter. So whatever you know what to lay out, how to do this page better than I ever could. So I'm more than happy to let him run wild. And there are just some splash pages, some little character bits that he does that are just chef's kiss.
I'm with you, man. Where is Renee Montoya now, coming out of the Bat books? I know that she just got let go by the mayor as Vandal
Right.
Savage kind of took over the police and everything, which, again,
Wow.
ripped from today's headlines.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah. Does that feel real or not? It's fun. Yeah. That the little three-parter I did for Brave and the Bold was kind of the tipping point in some ways narratively. So you see her kind of caught up in this scandal and facing off against this villain, Zero, who has ties to Renee's past. I don't want to spoil the ending because it is really a deep cut into like Bat lore. So if you read that three-parter and you get to the end, and Vic Sage shows up, so there's a lot of fun little Easter eggs in that story. But by the end of it, you know that her time as commissioner is probably going to wind down, and we find her at the beginning of issue 1. She's on the Watchtower, and we get a sense of what happened. She wasn't unemployed for long, and when Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman come knocking on your door and say you should come do this, you listen to them. But she's got a lot of baggage coming into the Watchtower, and she's not really sure this is what she wants to do or what she's meant to do. And like I said, it's like when you're hired for a new job and you don't get to hire your team, and one of them is your ex, and a few of them are people you don't really respect that much. And so it's a lot of growing pains for her out of the gate, and then having to figure out who is causing these glitches on the Watchtower. And if Batman can't figure something out, if Superman can't figure something out, Wonder Woman can't do it, Jaime Reyes can't do it, she's got a lot of imposter syndrome going on. Like, well, why am I here? And that's kind of the through line of the story. Like as we get to issue 4 and 5, we start to realize just why Batman pushed for her to come aboard and be the head of security, and why they gave her the kind of, she's got almost like a sheriff's outfit on. She's got the traditional question mask and a bigger hat, and she's got this rifle, and you find out that the rifle is somehow connected to the Phantom Zone containment unit that's on the Watchtower. So what I like about the story, and I'm a firm believer that you can have a noir story, and this in any setting. You can do like a Care Bears noir if you wanted to. It's really just the elements
Yeah.
of noir and where you transpose them. So I really like the idea of playing with these noir elements in a sci-fi setting with all these other superhero tropes and ideas. And I got a lot of emails like from people saying, "Oh my God, Conduit! Conduit is the villain you see at the end of issue 1." They were like, "Wow, he's such a deep cut," and I love those Superman '90s, Jurgens era Superman stuff. So there's a lot of that. It's really blending things you wouldn't expect, but telling it in a way that is true to Renee and her world.
Are we, because as we said, 3 issues are out. The last issue came out last month, and issue 4 does come out next Wednesday. And I've already teased the cover. Can we say who this Alas Poor York skull is in Renee's hands? Do you mind if we?
Yeah, I think you could figure it out. I mean, we saw the Eradicator in issue 2. Like I said, we're playing with a lot of Superman lore. I just don't want to get ahead of, some people read in different ways.
Sure,
so
I understand.
If you haven't read, you should read 1 and 2. But definitely we're blending Renee's like private eye vibes with a lot of kind of deep cut Superman stuff. And, if you see the Eradicator, you could probably figure out who else is around.
Absolutely. And it's, I think, an interesting challenge for Renee.
For sure.
Given the power level of the Eradicator and who else is coming. So
yeah. I mean, it's really like she's got to use every skill in her toolkit to just compete on the level of these guys. And she's got a great team. But also even any of them individually would be challenged to face off against the Eradicator or that kind of like Superman level villainy.
And the use of Bulleteer, which I love seeing Bulleteer. I mean, any of those Fawcett heroes, you got my attention. So
I kind of looked at it in retrospect, but there's Nightshades there. You've got Blue Beetle. You've got the Question. So there's a little bit of the the Charlton Heroes reunion tour.
Yeah.
But yeah, Bulleteer. I love what Grant did with 7 Soldiers of Victory, particularly the stuff with Unique on Bulleteer. So that was just a fun Easter egg, and a lot of the background scenes. Those are just notes I sent to Paul and Jillian and to Kian and just say, can we put in like so and so in here, or like what's Hawk doing, or
Yeah.
I really loved the Fire and Ice Smallville miniseries that Joanne did, so I was like, let's put him in there. Just the thing about the DC universe that I love is the texture, that you have this idea that this is not happening in a silo somewhere, that it's all part of a bigger narrative, and I think you see it really coming into focus with the All In stuff, and I think that's a testament to Paul and Jillian and Mark and just coordinating this big narrative. And so, he's been able to do the big epic JLU stories, but also give space to not smaller, but like side stories, which is what the
Yeah.
question is. And you see the question show up in Justice League Unlimited. So he's not ignoring stuff that's happening in the other books. And it feels very collaborative. Even if we're all like writing our scripts separately, there's a lot of touchstones that I think are really cool.
That's great, man. And I hope to talk to Cantwell in the weeks ahead about Challengers.
Yeah, it's a
and
great
I
book.
love that.
It's really
Yeah, well,
fun.
and yeah, and I love that they're back again, because I love all the old Silver Age stuff, man. When anybody plays with it, and it's great to
Yeah.
see all that stuff being used. Is there another DC book in your near future, or where are we with you in DC?
I hope so. Yeah, there's some stuff percolating in different stages. I think, yeah, we're having some conversations, so I hope so. I'm always optimistic, and I'm keeping pretty busy. So, I've got Green Hornet, Dick Tracy still coming. Star Wars at Marvel's going to launch in May. So, just hustling.
That's great, man. Before we get to another cover that I have set up, shame on me, I forgot that you're co-writing Green Hornet with Henry Barajas.
Yeah,
Green
you
Hornet,
had Henry on not long ago. Yeah,
yeah,
that's been a treat. And
yeah. So that's
one of
Green
the
Hornet and Ms. Fury, everybody,
Miss
or
Fury, yeah,
Miss Fury, not
yeah,
two of the
Miss,
great,
yeah.
two of the great 30s and 40s characters that Dynamite gets to play with, and
Yeah, one of the fun things about that is what I love about crossovers. Crossovers like Superman Aliens or even Wildcats Aliens. You want the crossover to feel like it counts. You don't want it to feel like something like this story happened in an alternate universe and has no weight or impact. So one of the things Henry and I wanted to do was let's weave their origins together in some way. And so what you discover is that they had the same mentor, this Cuban vigilante called the Silver Shrike, and he has had influence on both of them, except they've both gone on different paths. Like Green Hornet is much more by the book. Miss Fury is a little bit more. I don't want to say Catwoman because she's not a thief, but she's a little bit edgier and less prone to just doing what the law, the lay of the law or the land. She goes her own way. And so something brings them together to try and figure out what happened to this mentor that they shared, and they have different approaches, and Kato's an element. I think the sleeper part of this book is the art. Federico Ceresa came out of nowhere. He's got this style that blends like Ordway, Smallwood, like just very detail oriented, but also dynamic. And the second I saw his art, I was like, he's going to be drawing for Marvel or DC in no time. And I'm
that's
happy that
great.
we have him. Yeah, I'm happy we have him for the time we do. And I think he's finishing up. He started on 5, so which is the finale. We're chugging along with that, and yeah, it's been a blast. I love Green Hornet. I think he's one of the underrated pulp heroes in the same
I
way Dick
agree.
Tracy is.
I agree. We're going to get to Tracy. Henry is watching us, which is very nice. I can't wait for this book. I'm not sure which book he's talking about. His own book that you guys are writing,
Yeah, we got to
or
finish it. Yeah, no, he's been great to collaborate with too. The thing about Henry's super talented and just easy, just an ideal collaborator. There's no drama, there's no ego, and we both bring different ideas, and somehow it makes sense by the end of it, which is that's what you hope for. I like co-writing. I think it's a fun way to see how other people create and kind of hopefully teach a few tricks, but also gain a few tricks on your journey. And I've been very blessed with my collaborators like him and Michael Moreci and Monica Gallagher and Matt Rosenberg, like just great talented people that have taught me on the way, and that's kind of why you do it.
not only in comics but also in your novels? You had that
Mm-hmm.
crossover novel that you did. Who'd you write?
Yeah.
Who was that with again?
Rob Hart, who I also
Rob Hart.
Blood Oath. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. No, I hear you. Well, transitioning to Tracy, we just this week had the Valentine special, which is great. But
Yeah.
well, compare the crossovers, or I should say, the collaborations with Moreci and Henry.
Both are good. Yeah, they're different. I mean, you're working with different people. I've been blessed to know them both for a long time. Mike and I have been trying to get this Tracy thing off the ground since I was at Archie. So years and years ago, we thought we had the license and then we didn't. And finally we reached out to Tribune and got the rights ourselves and brought it to Mad Cave. So it was kind of a long road to get here. I think, I think we both are pretty democratic with how we work on stuff. We either get on the phone or we shoot some emails back and forth. Usually, Mauricio and I will get on the phone and kind of hash out the story, and one of us will take notes and share the notes, and then we'll kind of just extrapolate and literally say, you want the front half or the back half? And then we trade off and edit each other, and by the end of it, you have a script. And I think one of the things that's fun about working with both Henry and Michael is that sometimes you read something and you're like, did I write that or did he write that? And it's good because that means it's got both your fingerprints on it. And I think the challenge for me was definitely wanted Green Hornet Miss Fury to feel different than I didn't want it to feel like, you just change the color hat. Like it's Dick Tracy, but with a green hat. They're very different characters. Dick Tracy is in many ways a depowered like Superman type character. He's
I was
not
going to make the
dark.
same comparison. True blue
Yeah.
guy. Yes, go on.
He's a true blue guy. He doesn't have a lot of, he's got a little bit of trauma. He's got trauma from his time in the war, but it doesn't really deter him from doing the right thing by default. Whereas I think Green Hornet is almost like a super cop, but he's got more of Batman in him. He's got a little bit more of a dark side and more of a willingness to blur those lines and do what he needs to do. So it really has been fun working on both books to kind of explore their differences. And I mean, it's a kind of a no-brainer to have them cross over with each other, but that's above my pay grade, but it would be cool.
No, that would be amazing. Is in the Hornet book, and forgive me, I'm not paying attention to current continuity. Was the 30s Hornet also considered a criminal? I know Silver Age Hornet was considered a bad guy and used that to his advantage, but I don't know if Hornet is just a masked hero, or is he also portrayed as a villain?
He's just a hero. In our interpretation, he's a hero. I think we're definitely peeking in on him a little bit earlier than you would have seen like in the TV show or that kind of peak Hornet era, but a little bit after what was done in like Green Hornet Year One or even the Wade stuff. We wanted it to feel timeless in that we didn't want readers who picked it up to start wondering immediately, like, where does this fit in? Like, it's a kind of Green Hornet story that could have happened. It's early in his career. That's really all you need to know.
Okay.
And you find out that there's connective tissue between his past and Miss Fury's past, and we honor. She's the co-star, so I think as much time as we spend with Green Hornet, we spend as much with her, and she's really a fascinating hero and a fascinating just character in the history of comics too.
Agreed. No, and I think a real blank slate for people like you and Henry to come in and fill in the blanks and stuff. Yeah.
I think one of the things we tried to do was circumvent expectations or tropes. I think the easy thing to do would be, give them some romantic tension or make them like a Catwoman type, Batman type scenario. And that just felt like well-tread ground, the Black Cat, Spider-Man stuff. So we really have them at odds. And by the end of it, they have a grudging respect for each other that they didn't have for each other at the beginning. And it's really all about the arc, like the character arc. Like, how do these people change from page 1 to page 80? Like, they have to be different people. Otherwise, like I said, it's just a story out of time. Like, that doesn't really have any impact. So the hope is, I think it'll read really well when it's in trade. I hope people hopefully it'll be one of those lasting Hornet stories and Miss Fury stories that people point back to, but you never know.
No, I get it, man. And I got to say, I think I've really loved everything that Dynamite has been doing with both characters, frankly.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Henry's very nice and says Alex is such a great collaborator. That's very nice.
Checks
Henry's killing it on Gil Thorpe as well, the comic strip.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. No, it's so awesome to see him like spread his wings doing that. And, he just got a great Kickstarter funded, and I'm excited. I'm a very patient backer, so I'm excited to see that come to fruition. And, he's hustling too. It's crazy out there.
That's cool. All right, back to this particular Valentine special of Tracy that's out now from Mad Cave. Are these a bunch of short stories? What's the deal with this book?
Yeah, so it's two stories. One is written by Michael and I, another is written by Steve Orlando, a diehard Dick Tracy fan, an old friend. Our story is illustrated by Craig Cermak, who also did some of the Archie Lost.
I know Craig Cermak, Chicago guy.
Library. Yeah,
Yeah,
Chicago
yeah,
guy, great
great.
artist.
Hell of an artist. Absolutely. Tremendous artist.
Just he has this style that's really. I keep bringing up Jerry Ordway. I think I've just got Ordway on the brain, but he definitely has that very classic line to him, like Cary Gamble, but maybe with a kind of a smoother sheen to him. And Michael and I have wanted to work with Craig for the longest time, and it just, sometimes it doesn't line up. But when this opportunity came up, Geraldo was still doing the main book. He did a cover for this, but Craig was our first choice, and he readily accepted. And Brent Schoonover, who did those great connecting covers for Dick Tracy #1, another just really nice guy, very talented. He did the backup with Steve. So yeah, we're hoping to do more of these kind of holiday themed specials. There's a little romance, as you would expect in a Valentine's Day story, but it's also a fun movie set murder mystery that it's kind of it feels classic, but also we put a twist on it that hopefully will keep people entertained.
That's cool. How is it writing the supporting cast for Tracy, Tess, and Pat? And have they had a lot to do in your story so far?
They have, I was really, Michael and I both were really adamant that Tess had to be an active participant, not just the wowie like female supporting cast or always in peril. I mean, she is in peril. They're all in peril at different times, but it's when you have like flat top gunning for you, you're going to be in trouble. But I
Sure.
think we wanted them all to feel fully fleshed out. Pat has a little bit of a darker past and is got more of an edge to him than I think he did in the newspaper strips, at least out of the gate. And so it's really like not it's making sure that the characters are recognizable to the fans who love the lore, but also making them accessible and modernizing them a bit for new readers so it doesn't feel like you miss something. It's not we're not diving into like 5 year later Legion. Like you don't need to know everything to understand what's happening, which isn't a diss. I love Giffen stuff, but I
Oh,
mean
come on.
this is not
Yeah.
a dense. It's supposed to be an open read that if someone isn't a Dick Tracy fanatic, you can still pick it up and say, "Hey, this is just a great crime comic." Hopefully,
Well, no, and that's exactly what I was going to say. Is it's a very approachable crime comic that you don't need to know the history. You're really going to
yeah,
appreciate the action and the thoughtfulness on Tracy's part. And no, this is great, and there's a
thanks.
reason why this goes back to the 30s and it's still being printed today. You know, God, I
Yeah,
don't know
I
if
mean,
you had a chance. I mean, it's you've only been doing this for a year and change. Have you had a chance to talk to Joe Staten, who was a longtime Tracy strip artist and everything about you
I
doing
did. I mean,
Tracy?
I love Joe's stuff. I was a big fan of his just growing up as a reader. One of my first DC comics was. Do you remember this book, DC Focus? It was kind of like
Oh yeah,
DC's Wiz. Yeah. So it was like
no,
really
describe it. Yeah,
yeah.
describe
So
Focus though.
it was basically a marketing magazine, like what DC previews, like those little previews. But it
Yeah,
had like
Like Marvel Age was and
yeah,
everything.
it
Sure.
had like editorial content, which was just like promo content. But for a kid, like I think I was 5 or 6 when I got it was Millennium, so it must have 87, I guess. So
Okay.
I had no idea who these characters were. I mean, I obviously knew Superman, but like it was an intense deep dive into the pool. But Joe Staten had that beautiful Millennium cover where every character is kind of like looking up to the sky in shock. Um, so long story short, yeah, I love Joe. We did an event, a comic shop event, virtual, because that was around the time the book launched, and he was very gracious. I mean, this guy's a legend, so he had I don't think he'd read our book yet, but he was very gracious about it, and he said everyone's going to have different takes, and
Sure.
obviously his take is iconic and ours is different, and um, it was just cool to be in the same virtual room with him because he's done everything and he's still working, still chugging along.
He's amazing. And another
Yeah.
amazing guy that's still working, Max Allen Collins, who had that really
Hmm.
significant run writing Tracy in the strips after Chet, and Dick Locher, one of
Yeah.
Chet's original collaborators, was still drawing the
Hmm.
strip. Again, growing up here in Chicago with the Tribune every Sunday, man, and really during the week as well. I was all over Tracy, and
Yeah,
especially
a friend
that
of
run as
mine
well.
is a copy editor. She's a mystery writer, Tracy Clark, but she also works at the Tribune. And she was like, I read Dick Tracy every week or every day, basically. She,
Sure.
she looks at the strip and manages the strip, which is exciting. Yeah, and Max and I know each other from different worlds, like from the crime fiction world, but also comics. So we're I guess we're one of the few multitaskers that do a little bit of both.
I hear you, man.
Yeah.
That's excellent. Well, that's great. And you guys are 7 or 8 issues in right now on your Tracy run.
Yeah, we just turned in the script to 9, and we just finished up the Valentine's Day special, and we're finishing up the second arc, which is Michael and I like to call it's our Michael Mann arc. It's much more Manhunter vibes than, the first arc was very much an organized crime, gang war, nod to the old gangster movies of the 40s, and a little bit of the modern kind of Goodfellas stuff. But um, this is a little bit tighter in focus, and it's a little bit much darker, I think, and much more psychological horror and thriller. Um, and it's a straight up mystery. Like, who is the blank? I've seen all the guesses. I've seen people posting their speculation, and no one is right yet. So I hope the reveal pays off, and I hope that they like this kind of tonal shift, because what we're trying to do with each arc is stay true to the mythos of Dick Tracy and keep it in the world, but give the readers a different flavor. Like, even this Valentine's Day special was a little more lighthearted. It fits in the narrative, like right between the arcs. Like, you can read it and it's pretty seamless. But we want it to feel like we're trying new things and it's not just episode of the week.
Okay. Next to Batman, Tracy, and really you can say Tracy was first with the Rogues Gallery.
Oh yeah,
and all the amazing criminals that he faces, and just as crazy as far as personas as the Bat characters and everything. So
I remember as sorry, go ahead.
No, you go right ahead, and then I'll ask my question.
I was just going to say that I remember as a kid, who collected comics and loved comics, and then was turned on to Dick Tracy when the movie came out, just being so blown away that this guy had such an amazing rogues gallery. And that just stayed in my mind years and years after Tracy had various iterations in comics. And I was like, people need to use these rogues. Like, they're fascinating bad guys and you can flesh them out. And so that's kind of why we're slow burning it a little bit. We're not doing what the movie did, which is literally putting everyone in the first arc.
Yeah.
Or the first 2 hours. Like, the first arc, you see Flat Top, you see Big Boy, you see Lips Manless, and then we kind of turn up the volume. And there's so many like little Easter eggs. Every character that shows up in the comic is a character from the strip. Though we've created a new villain for the second arc that hopefully people will dig.
Okay, that's cool. I'm gonna have to catch up and check that out. That's great.
Yeah, no, because I feel like, why not add to the lore?
Of course.
In the same way that people were creating great, Denny O'Neil created Ra's al Ghul. You have the ventriloquist, you have Bane, you have all these additions to the Batman Rogues Gallery. Like, we thought, well, let's carve out a little space for ourselves too.
There's nothing wrong with that. For both vetting on Green Hornet and Tracy, let's start with Tracy though. How is it working with Tribune, and are they letting you do what you guys want to do?
Yeah, they've been super easy to deal with and very supportive. And I think the good thing about that is that we were pretty clear out of the gate what we wanted to do. There was no gear shift where they said, "Oh my God, this is much more adult or much more violent than we thought it was." Like, we were pretty plain in our pitch that this is basically LA Confidential meets the Dick Tracy universe. Like that level of film noir, crime noir, thriller vibe, with a modern twist. Like, we obviously are treating the characters with the respect that comes with like modern storytelling. And Green Hornet, it's different because with Dick Tracy, we are a little bit more interact a little more directly with Tribune because we have the license, and so we kind of work with Mad Cave. But I haven't, from my perch as just the co-writer, I haven't seen any pushback. So it seems like everything's copacetic.
That's cool. No,
Yeah.
I get it. Literally, I was talking to both with Brian and Michael Stratford. Michael Stratford just did this book about the model for the Doc Savage covers that we all grew up on, and the James Bama covers. And Steve Holland was the name of the male model and actor that did those was the model for those covers. And it's interesting how the intellectual property keepers will get really stingy about allowing adaptations of their stuff. And, for whatever reasons, maybe comics aren't big enough or whatever. And I'm certainly not talking about Tracy or the Hornet,
right?
But we were talking about Doc Savage and even the Shadow. And it's just like, God, you get a great author like James Patterson is like, hey, I'm doing a Shadow novel. And it's like, okay.
Wow.
Here
are the keys.
Yeah. And sure. Yeah. And in fact, to the extent where the great former comic writer and a lot of paperback tie-ins to comics and pulps, Will Murray, they kind of put the kibosh on his run of Shadow novels to let Patterson do his thing.
Yeah.
And then Patterson's thing comes out, and I can tell you as an old-time Shadow fan, it's like, all right, I guess. It really...
read it.
Yeah, well, again, and I it was a great opportunity, but it's like, oh, that's what he
Here's
was
the
going to do.
challenge. As someone, I've been seen it kind of from different perspectives. Like at Archie, the idea was always like, as long as it feels like the characters, he can look different, he can be in any situation as long as he's true to himself. So if the character acts like the character should, is recognizable visually and tonally, then you can put him in any situation. Like you can have a Lego Batman, you can have a Matt Reeves Batman, you can have a Brave and the Bold. Archie, you can do Afterlife, you can do Classic, you can do Archie Meets Kiss, or what have you. Um, so I think sometimes it's hard. It sounds easier than it is. So you have to have really people involved that love the IP, understand the IP, and even calling it IP kind of gives me a little cringe, but
I hear you, man.
understands who these characters are and how they interact with each other. So you can push the envelope and do different things, but as long as they're true to themselves, the fans will recognize them. So
That's great. Well, another franchise that you hold on. Let me see another comment.
oh, good.
Let's see. There we go. Oh, right from Australia. Thank you, Spedsy or Speedsy. Good
Hey,
day to
Spencer.
you. There we go. I love that that's happening.
Yeah.
I was going to ask. Obviously, you've been able to play a lot in the Star Wars universe, both in comics
Yeah.
and novels. And where are you now in the Star Wars stuff? Are you in between? Are you in the midst of something? Because I know last year, obviously, you had a nice Marvel miniseries going and everything.
Yeah. It was a busy time. I did Spider Society, which was fun, but also
Sure.
Battle of Jakku, which was a 12-part I guess maxi series. They're going to collect it all together, which is going to be wild to see, like a 12 issue trade paperback of my stuff. But it was 3 4 issue miniseries bi-weekly, so every 2 weeks you'd have a new issue. So it was really a truncated timeline. I've never worked on anything quite like it, but it fills the gap between Return of the Jedi and the Battle of Jakku, which, as fans know, is the culmination of the Galactic Civil War. So um, I've never worked on a project like that because it's obviously telling an untold story. Like, what were Luke, Leia, Han, and all the major players doing during this time? But there's a lot of established canon, so there's, the stuff that's in the Wendig novels, a lot of other novels. Um, so it was both an academic endeavor, like, let me make sure I know what's happened and how it happened and in what order, but then also, like, what's the story? Like, what, it's got to be compelling, and it's got to feel like to me, I was like, it's got to feel like another movie. Like there was another movie that we didn't see. Like, what is it? Um, so maybe that's overly ambitious, but that was, Marvel put me in a great situation, and that I had great collaborators like Leonard Kirk, Stefano Raphael, Jethro Morales, Luke Ross did a little bit,
Oh,
and the editorial team was really supportive. And it was a jam. Like, you have, I was writing a lot, and I was writing things to, kind of throwing balls up in the air and knowing that eventually I would pick it up later. It was um, a great crash course, and also it was just, I mean, the fun part is you get to put words in Luke Skywalker's mouth. Like, how cool is that? Like, that's something that I'll never forget. And I think the response has been really good, and I think it's a lot of the threads lead into the new Star Wars ongoing, the new relaunch with Phil Noto. Which, look, you don't have to have read Battle of Jakku to understand. Issue 1 is very new reader friendly. You step in, and it's a whole new kind of set of situations. But you can, if I think Star Wars fans do read it all, so they are
I agree.
pretty. And I think that's part of the fun, that you're tapping into the lore and pulling out deep cuts, referencing things that the fans understand and feel, but also giving it that. I think what I love about the original trilogy is that it is steeped in this universe, but it feels so welcoming. And so, like, these characters are iconic. So you're playing with these big mythological characters in many ways. And at the end of the day, I could give Phil the phone book and it'll look great because it's Phil Noto and he's just amazing. So I've known Phil for so long. I mean, since my Wizard days, he was around and doing
Ha,
stuff. He was
sure,
doing stuff at DC when I was at
sure.
DC. Just one of the sweetest guys, so talented. At my wedding, he did an image for the groomsmen, like as a
Oh,
superhero team. He
oh,
drew
that's
us all
great.
as superheroes. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was really cool. So getting the chance to collaborate with him, he did the Poe Dameron novel cover, which was he's just
Yes.
great. I don't know what else to say. He's just amazing. Yeah.
No, I love Phil, and God, I haven't seen him forever. I don't know last time the two of us were at a show, if he's even at shows anymore.
I
But
can't remember the last. I think, yeah, I don't remember the last time I saw him in person. But
I
we chat. Yeah,
sure I remember mentioning Wizard. I remember that New West story that he did with Jimmy with Palmiotti. I don't know if
yeah,
Justin co-wrote it or not, but I know Jimmy was one of the at least if not the writer, one of the writers
hmm
on it.
right.
But yeah, I mean, and also so many great artists of the last 25 years. You see Phil's stuff, as you know, from him doing the Poe book
hmm
cover and everything. It's like, oh my God, this guy, why isn't he doing paperback covers? Look at how beautiful his people are. And
Yeah,
and
he's
you
got
know,
this
yeah.
Romita thing. He just draw everyone is beautiful, and his likenesses are great, but they don't feel overwrought. Sometimes an artist is trying to just capture a license, and the art becomes stiff because they're just so hyper focused on the detail. But Phil, the best artists make it look easy. Like Romita, Dan DeCarlo, like they're Jaime Hernandez, like these artists that you just look at the page and you're like, oh, I could do that. And then you look at the simplicity is the hard part. Like distilling it down into this beautiful line is the challenge. And I think Phil is in that class.
Yeah, I don't remember specific issues, but I know over the years he did a lot of Batman covers, and especially
hmm
Bruce Wayne. And it's like that is the challenge. Show me, because no disrespect to any artist that draws Batman in the
Yeah,
cowl, but really the cowl is a pretty basic design. Show me Bruce Wayne, who has a lot
yeah.
more going on behind his eyes than just the millionaire drunk and everything. And it's like, yeah, there you go. And Phil's stuff, it's like, okay, yeah, that Bruce Wayne is calculating even when he's Bruce Wayne and stuff. And I
You
always
know what else?
appreciate
He also
Phil stuff.
reminds me, and you'll get this reference of Robert McGinnis, who was the pulp cover artist, like crime novel. He did the James Bond, Ian Fleming paperbacks. And, Phil draws beautiful women. He draws beautiful men. He draws beautiful characters that feel like timeless and stylish and fashionable and just cool. And I think in another dimension, he would have been like the Robert McGinnis of his time.
Or if
If he wasn't doing comics, which he's
or
doing wonderful.
if he was born a few decades earlier. That's interesting. I'm surprised the hard case guy, Charlie, right? I think is his
Charlie,
name.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
I should
surprised
mention him.
Charlie hasn't tapped Phil to do some new covers of things. It's
Yeah, I
funny,
mean, Phil's busy, so
well, and I respect that too.
yeah,
Of course. Well, yeah, he is
yeah.
busy if he's drawing a full Star Wars book with
hmm
you and everything. Where are you guys in the story right now with the Star Wars book?
The first issue comes out in May, so
Oh, okay.
yeah. So we've got a little runway. So
Oh,
we
okay.
haven't nothing's come out yet, but we're all stoked for people to
I
read it.
gotta I gotta bug you or Marvel to get me Phil's contact info. I haven't had Phil on forever,
Oh
and
yeah, you should do
it'd be
that.
great to.
Yeah.
Again, I haven't seen him forever, but he's a great guy, and I'd like to think that the two of us clicked immediately and stuff.
Oh
So
yeah.
I think he'd come back. But
hmm
that's good to know. All right, good deal. Is the solicit out yet for what you're going to
Not
start
yet.
with, or no? Okay,
No.
all right.
Yeah.
I don't want you to spoil. That's all right, man. No, I'm
No, it'll be
excited
cool. I
for you.
mean, it's definitely going to be a good jumping on point. You won't have to. I mean, of Jakku was very much like this is what happened between these two pillars of like Star Wars lore, and then really the floodgates kind of open and all bets are off in this new era that is really unexplored. I mean, obviously there's Mandalorian and other stuff that happens a little bit later. Like even the Poe Dameron novel happens in that space, but um, I think I'm trying as much as I can to lean into the freewheeling part of it to give readers a different look at things that are a little familiar but a little different because so much has changed. The Empire has fallen, the New Republic is trying to get its sea legs and figure out what it is and what it's going to be, and now we're seeing the main characters go off on these trajectories that we know later on where they end up with
Force Awakens.
the Force Awakens and the others, but that's a lot of runway. So it's a lot of
Yeah,
space between those things.
I'm glad you guys are examining this period because you're right. We got a taste of it in Mandalorian where Luke was and everything, but
hmm
it's like no, there's a lot of runway as you pointed to really
Yeah.
explore, and that's great. And it's great for all three of them. I that's interesting. Have you had a chance to talk to Timothy Zahn at all about Star Wars shit?
No, no, no. I mean, I'm sure I'll run into him at a show this year or something, but we haven't had the chance to chat. I'd love to. I think he's great. I'm a fan.
Have you done any pure Star Wars celebrations or any pure Star Wars conventions or anything?
No, not yet. I'd love to go to Celebration. It's in Japan this year, so I don't think I'm going to make
Oh,
that. But yeah, it's a
yeah.
little bit of a trek. It's yeah. I mean, unless I'm going to bring the whole crew. So
My buddy in sports, it was a great not only a great Chicago reporter, but also would really like fly around the country. And he managed to get this thing that they've absolutely closed the loophole on, where
Oh,
he
yeah.
was able to like get mileage that would triple in its value and stuff. So when the Cubs played Japan one opening day 10 years ago or whatever, he told our station, it's like, hey, you want me to cover the game? And they're like, well, we can't send you. He's like, I can send myself. And they're like,
Oh, wow.
I guess you're going to Japan. That's fantastic. So he went to Japan and he covered the
That's
opening
awesome.
day. Yeah.
Wow.
No,
Yeah,
that's
what a
amazing.
trip that must have been.
I would love to check out an otaku convention and the way they do it in Japan and compare that to the American
No,
shows.
I'd love to. Yeah, I think you suddenly your travel range gets a little bit smaller when you have. For me, it's when you have like young kids. Like you can't really be gone that long if it's just your trip, and if it's all of you, it's someday. Yeah.
Regarding your novels, are you still the third? You're doing the third one, right? Of Alter Ego, aren't you doing a third volume? Or
I'm
no?
not. No. Alter Ego
Oh,
came out
okay.
in December, so it's
Okay.
what's funny about Alter Ego is it came out in December, and then you have that holiday lull, so it almost feels like it's been out for a long time, but it hasn't really been out that long. USA Today bestseller, which was awesome. That was really exciting. Yeah, that was my first national bestseller, which was a thrill. And the response has been really good. I think people really liked it, and we're happy with it. But I think that's the end of that story for now. But never say
Okay.
never. Like Pete Fernandez shows up in Alter Ego, so I'm never really done with anything. But my next book in September is a Daredevil crime novel for Hyperion Avenue, which is called Enemy of My Enemy. And the high concept is basically, what happens when the Kingpin is murdered and the main suspect is the Punisher, and you're Matt Murdock. Like, do you defend the Punisher in a trial? Like, so there's a lot. It's literally putting Daredevil and Matt Murdock in the least favorable position he could imagine. He's got to defend this guy who he can't stand, who is his moral opposite in the Punisher, who takes the law into his own hands for the murder of this other guy that destroyed his life and he can't stand, that he's kind of glad is dead in the Kingpin. But at the same time, nothing is as really as it seems. So as he starts digging into the why of what happened to the Kingpin, he starts to realize, like, well, maybe the Punisher is innocent, and why is he still in prison? If you're the Punisher, you can get out anytime you like. Like I don't lie. The Punisher, the Punisher's only in prison because he wants to be in prison. So
Absolutely.
that's yeah. So I got to play with a lot of cool characters, a lot of nice Easter eggs. Luke Cage shows up. Jessica Jones shows up because it's part of this Marvel crime line. So Lisa Jewell did the first one, which was a Jessica Jones novel, which was great. And S.A. Cosby's doing the next one, which is a Luke Cage novel. So while it's not a continuity per se, they're all happening in the same world. And so fun stuff. I mean, Daredevil. I was a Spider-Man, X-Men, and Daredevil kid growing up, and I was telling Bendis this when we were talking at Miami Book Fair. I said I read every Daredevil issue, and I know to the issue number where this novel fits into canon. But it also is the kind of thing that is geared to appeal to like casual readers or people who are watching the show and really into the character or that kind of perception of the character. So you can hop in there and you'll understand what the rules are and who Matt Murdock is, who Foggy Nelson is, who Elektra is. Elektra shows up, which was fun. But there are a lot of fun deep cuts too. Like if you're a hardcore Daredevil person, like I am, I literally read every Daredevil issue up until the present to get in the zone for this one. There's a lot of fun stuff in there. There's a lot, I think it's very much in conversation with the Bendis run, very much in conversation with, obviously, you can't write Daredevil without thinking about Miller or Miller and Mazzucchelli. But also like the Anna Senti run is really close to my heart. I think it's really, Annie is just so, she's so great, also so underrated. I think a lot of people, I wish they talked about her Daredevil run more because it's one of my favorite runs on a superhero overall. And,
she had that thankless job of following Miller after
yeah.
Born Again. And all she did was it's just like Meltzer coming after Kevin Smith on Green Arrow. Mm-hmm. And no, I have tremendous respect for Anne. Absolutely. And when you mentioned too that
gig nobody wanted.
Exactly.
Miller
in
does
both
Born
cases.
Again, totally raises Matt Murdock's life.
Yeah. And literally writes the ending to Born Again, where Matt and Karen are just living in Hell's Kitchen, and he's a short order cook in a diner. And they're just doing their I mean, it's them walking off, into the sunset and everything. It's like, that's great. And hey, here's how do you do? I'm Anicetti, and here's a new character for you, Typhoid Mary.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I mean, Typhoid's amazing. And so there's a lot of, Annie there. I mean, Annie's a friend. I respect her immensely as a writer. And Denny O'Neil had the similar challenge. I think he said like when Miller left the first time, nobody wanted this gig, so I took it myself. Because he's a great writer in and of himself.
Oh God,
Um,
yeah.
a lot of Denny's run was a big influence, and also like the DG Chichester Lee Weeks stuff, the Last Right stuff, which is a very good response to Born Again. I think about those books a lot. So yeah, I mean, it was a dream. It was one of those things where you're like, "Does this work?" Because I would do this probably for free and for fun. Just don't tell my agent that.
You mentioned the Punisher willing to, if he's in jail, it's because he wants to be there. It
Yeah.
reminds me of that one moment during Brubaker's run. Does he
Mhm.
shoot a cop in the face or whatever? And the partner's just like, and he's
Yeah.
like, come on, you got to, what you got to do? You got to book me and put me in jail. Sorry.
Yeah,
And it's like,
he does.
yeah, and with a smile on his face, which is,
He's
again,
like,
why.
I'm doing this because I want to be there. Like, and there's a moment in the novel where, Matt's taking the assignment and he realizes he's like, you can leave anytime you want to. And he's like, yeah, I can. And so
Honestly,
that was fun. That was a little nod to Brubaker for sure.
I respect that. No, that whole dynamic between Spider-Man, Daredevil, and the Punisher, or just Daredevil and the Punisher. No, it's always, I think that's great to explore. And again, all of you, is this your first writing of Daredevil?
It is, yeah. First time
Okay.
ever.
Honestly, man, I'm psyched to see what you do with it, because truly, kind of like Batman, when we get to different creative changes, I'm always blown away. I mean, my God, and I forget the current writer's name of the monthly.
Saladin.
Thank you. And
Yeah.
it's very interesting, but also, I mean, Zdarsky's run was great.
Oh yeah, Chip's stuff was amazing. Yeah. Really good.
Yeah.
I thought, Chip is a big fan of the Nascenti stuff as well, and I could read that in his arc, and the artwork was fantastic. Marco and Mike, and I think Jorge Fornes did a few issues as well. Just like really top to bottom great, and having Elektra step into the Daredevil costume. Erica Schultz is doing amazing stuff with that.
Agreed.
Miniseries, yeah.
Agreed, and it's funny because as soon as even prior to you saying that, I'm like, yeah, I got to get Erica on and everything. And
you do, yeah, she's awesome.
It's been a while, but no, she's come on before. I'm very happy for her. She's killing it.
Yeah, she's a pro.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. A lot of these
book is great. The new Wolverine book she's doing is great.
I'm gonna have to check that out as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a lot of these people that right before COVID were just breaking in, and now they're all killing it and stuff. Pepos is like that. Erica Schultz is like that. No, I think that's great, man, and I'm glad you're getting the opportunities you're getting. So
yeah, it's wild.
That's great.
It's a blessing.
I'm really glad you mentioned the Daredevil book coming up in the fall, because we'll definitely have to talk about that when.
Yeah, we'll circle back to that. That would be awesome.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having me.
My man, as always. Jesus, are you kidding me? No, this has been great, and I love what we've been talking about. And well, before Daredevil, I'm gonna obviously have to have you on a couple months into Star Wars and see what's going on with you and Phil.
Yeah, let's do it around May or June, and we'll be ramping up, and then we can probably talk in more detail about Daredevil. Though I think you got the lay of the land, basically.
No, that's cool. Is there? Well, maybe you could shoot me the galleys or whatever, and right before it comes out, we can, without spoiling, get a little bit more into it and everything. No, are there conventions coming up for you this year?
Yeah, I'll be in New York, maybe San Diego. I'm hoping to be at Terrificon. I usually do Miami Book Fair in November. Just it's a hometown show. Get to see friends and family, and
Sure.
It's just a great festival. So those are the big ones.
Excellent, man. Very, very cool. You're killing it, Alex. I'm telling you, I'm very happy with you. And truly, everybody, jump on Dick Tracy. This Valentine's special with 2 great stories is out this week from Mad Cave. But also, let's not forget the question all along the Watchtower. Halfway through the miniseries, and issue 4 is out next week. And it's a nice little side story. If you've been enjoying what's been happening in Justice League Unlimited, Alex is tapping in on that, but giving it from Renee Montoya's perspective, which is very, very interesting. So keep it up, dude. You're killing.
Thanks so much. Yeah, it's really been a thrill. Thanks again for having me.
My pleasure, buddy. Next week, lots more great Word Balloon Live coming your way. I hope you'll join us. Until then, everybody stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy.